Hello, speakers and leaders. Today, we're talking all about your public speaking and how we can improve your public speaking for your career and business success. Now, I'm not sure if you ever felt this way. Maybe you feel like your speaking is holding you back. Maybe you have that speaking anxiety, or you just feel like you need to be a better speaker to take your career and your professional success to the next level. Well, today I have one of the best experts, Andy O'Sullivan here to help you become a better speaker. Now, as a shy introvert, Andy has always struggled to get his voice heard, struggling to speak up in meetings and avoiding the distress of ever delivering presentations. Andy found his corporate career progression stalled, while those of his less experienced but far more confident colleagues flourished. Now, this anguish led Andy on a lengthy and at times painful journey to transform his own confidence and public speaking skills. Now, today, Andy's many clients benefit from this journey and his 25 years of experience to swiftly develop their public speaking skills and confidence, achieving success in their careers. Now, Andy is one of the best speaking experts that I know, and I'm super honored, Andy, to have you here with us. Welcome, Andy.
Thank you, Kit. Lovely to be here on your show.
Now, Andy, I do want to dive into your story, but when it comes to public speaking, I just want to dive into it. What are some of the main challenges that you think people are facing as speakers, and what are your solutions to those challenges?
The biggest thing people have is confidence. They worry about what's going to happen before they've even got into the meeting room or they got onto Zoom. They build up this anxiety, the worrying about what's going to happen, how people are going to see them. And ultimately, I think really what it comes down to, Kit, is how people judge them. And I think that is what is causing so much of the anxiety that I see in all the clients that I have.
So when it comes to anxiety, can you really get rid of it? Or is it one of those things that always stay with us? I mean, like, can we actually do something and it'll magically be gone? What is it? What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, so often what people are looking for, and to be honest, when I started, I did as well, this kind of like magic bullet that you can just get rid of all anxiety and feel 100% confident and all the time be ready. But I would say, what, there's something to be said for having a little bit, and I do mean a little bit, of anxiety. Because that shows you care about it. You're passionate about it. So I would never want to get rid of everything. And an example maybe, for example, cooking a meal. Now, I would cook a meal for myself and I wouldn't give it a second thought, right? But if, say, Kit, you were coming round, I'd feel a bit more anxious about it. I'd want it to go well. I'd take more care about it. So I think some anxiety is good. We just don't want that big anxiety that, to be honest, I used to get that. I had a presentation coming up once, and I remember when I first started, and it was like 2 weeks beforehand on a Sunday night, I thought about it, lying in bed. And then I got, the sweaty palms, the palpitations, those belly going. That is not what we want. That's what we need to work to remove. But there's some little bit of anxiety. I think it's great. It shows that you're there. It shows that you care. So let's not get rid of it 100%, because it just shows it's an important thing for us, Kit.
Well, Andy, let's say some of our people are watching this live or watching the replay of this, and maybe in an hour, they have their own presentation or their own meeting or high stakes events they go to, and they feel this anxiety. What can they do in that moment to lower the stress? Or maybe, it's like an hour before, 10 minutes before, like, what is something that we can actually do, like right now, to calm down?
Well, the main thing is, why are you there, right? Why are you speaking? Now, if somebody's invited you to speak or you're going to be, it's because people generally want to hear from you, right? You have something to share. Nobody would invite you to go along and speak at this event if they thought you were going to bore them or they didn't think you had some value. Even if it's just a team update, people think that you've got value to add. So the mindset for you should be, how can I serve them? That to me is actually the center of everything. When we're speaking in public, be it to our team, be it to clients, be it to a large audience, is how can we serve them? What can we do for our audience? And if we kind of keep that at the center of everything, even when we're maybe creating our presentation, writing our notes, even just giving an update, what is it that we can share? And if we can keep that there, that itself lowers our anxiety. Because what happens, what we do, and again, everything that people generally do to make the anxiety worse is exactly what I used to do, right? So what happens is you start thinking about what I call the what if questions. It becomes, okay, the meeting's coming up, I've got an hour, I've got 10 minutes, it's due. What if I forget my words? What if I stumble over something? What if the tech fails? What if I look silly? What if they ask me a really difficult question? And it's all about us, right? And let's be honest, if we're thinking of all these negative things, we're naturally going to get anxious. We're naturally going to get stressed because we're thinking all the negative. Because we never sit down and think, oh, what if this presentation goes really well? What if my boss really likes it? What if the client places this big, massive order? We don't think that when we're getting nervous. We just think of all this negative stuff. So all we want to do is switch it from being internal in our head, where we're winding ourselves up, going through this loop of what if questions. So we want to break that, and they'll start projecting out. So what can I do to serve them? What would they like to know about the subject? How can I explain it to them in a way that they're going to understand it? What's my takeaway for them? We want to think of our audience and keep them literally at the center of everything. But the part is awareness. You see, when we become aware of what we're doing, when we become aware of, these what if questions, and everybody has them in some way or another, it's becoming aware of them, then we can catch ourselves doing it. And then we say awareness, right? So we can catch ourselves doing it now every time. I do it myself sometimes. I catch myself from doing it. Then I can say, okay, no, stop that, focus on the client. Catch it, stop, focus. And if you're focused on them, naturally the anxiety levels will go down, the stress will go down, because now we're thinking about our clients, our colleagues, and we will, I promise you, and everybody watching this, you will feel far more relaxed when you do that. But awareness there is the key.
So Andy, you're talking about noting or being aware of our doubts. What if I mess up? What if I do this? Should we write them down, or so we just know it in our heads? What's the best way to do it?
I think write them down is a great way to, when you're starting off, write them down, and you'll see what you're doing. So first, you've got to be aware that you're doing it, because if you're not aware, you wouldn't even think of writing them down, would you? Right? So be aware that you do it. Write them down. Now, what I think is a good thing to do is actually write down any of your concerns, whatever they are, and see which ones can you actually address. So, for example, if you're worried about, you're not used to, say, doing a Zoom meeting and you're showing slides and you're worried about how to do it, great. You can take action on that before the meeting. You could host, say, your own Zoom meeting. It's free to do. Check the tech. Make sure you're comfortable with it. Make sure you understand how it works. Then, once you've done that, you can cross it off your list. So you can find out which ones work for you. You can eliminate them, and then you'll feel so much more relaxed. That's part of the key. So write down any of your concerns, one after the other. Those that you can address, cross them off. Those that you can't, you'll probably find those negative ones that you're just looping in your mind. But I always did. I remember writing down the times that I was concerned about the room. I was concerned that people wouldn't remember to come. So I double checked with the reception. Is the room booked? Yes, great. I didn't need to worry about it anymore. I checked the AV team. Are they going to be there on time? Is somebody definitely going to be there to help me set up my laptop? They were. I felt more relaxed. I checked what are the connections I need for my laptop to make sure it all went together. Again, I can relax on that. So if it's finding the ones you can do something about, then you don't need to worry about them. And those other ones that you can't do anything about definitely aren't worth worrying about. But find the ones, the silly ones, like the judgment ones, Kit. They are the ones that we want to catch ourselves doing and really change that mindset to project out.
Now, a lot of people, they ask me this question. I'm not sure if they ever asked you this. How long does it take to become more of a confident speaker and maybe get rid of anxiety? What are your thoughts about that? How long does it take?
Right, I would say some people often say to me they feel incredibly nervous, and I say, "How long would it take me?" Well, it's different. Everyone is different, right? It's like me saying, how long will it take me to get a six pack? Well, it depends, doesn't it? I would say that once you start, and that is the key, start it now. And therefore, what we can do is gradually build our skills up. See, what people often do is that they will wait until they have a really big presentation. They will procrastinate about it. And then it's only at the end they start doing something about it. The number of, for example, the number of people who have come to me and said, can you help me with best man speech on, say, a Wednesday? Wednesday used to be a popular day. And I say, yes, when is the wedding? And they would say Saturday. It's because they've left it too long. And therefore, there's very limited amount that you can do. So the first thing I'd say is start taking opportunities to speak. If you want to get that confidence, you've got to do it, right? Watching me speak will not give you the confidence. Watching other people speak definitely doesn't do it. And again, I've got to be honest, I tried that as well, right? So find opportunities. It could be speaking up in meetings. Make sure you always ask a question, because I know that can be nerve-wracking. It could be finding times to speak in small groups, giving presentations in small groups as well. But it's taking opportunities. I mean, even finding groups. There's lots of groups across the world where you can go along and practice, as in these evening groups, lunchtime groups, anything like that. So find those. Then you'll see your confidence gradually growing. It's not something that you can do in an hour or one evening. And everybody's really different. I was petrified when I started. So it took me a lot longer than maybe somebody who was a little bit more, just a little bit nervous and just wanted to finalize that part of them. But everybody's different, Kit.
Can you tell us a little bit about your journey? And then, you just told us, you were petrified earlier, but how did you get better at speaking? And, you're teaching others about how to become better speakers. Now, tell us more about your journey. I would love to hear it.
So again, as you mentioned at the beginning, I used to be petrified. So I didn't like to speak up in meetings, never volunteered to do them. But it was seeing my more confident, but less competent colleagues. They were the ones who did it. They had the confidence. They didn't have the skills. They didn't have the experience, but they had the voice. So I started looking out for events, and I used to go to them, but I never wanted to go. You know that little voice we always have, that doubt. It says, "Do you really want to?" I'd leave the office, be traveling over to the event, and that little voice said, "Do you really want to go? You don't need to. Why don't you go home? Have some wine. Have a glass of wine. You like that? Have some pizza. You don't need to go." Nobody'd know. And I really didn't want to go. And by the time I got to the venue, remember, I hadn't even gone in, and I would have palpitations. I would have sweaty palms. I was so scared to go in because they might make me speak in public. But that is why I was there. And it actually took me years over learning different skills, honing them, growing them to the point that I could give presentations. But it is getting that awareness of what it is that we're thinking, and it's finding the right training as well. I could say a lot of courses and training I went in were quite rubbish that actually delayed it. I remember going on one, it was a 3-day training on public speaking. Over 3 days, we spoke in public once for 2 minutes on the last day. Now, that really wasn't much help. So it's finding somewhere where you're going to get regular practice. The theory, you can get anywhere. You can get it on a book, you can get it on a blog post, even on YouTube. But it's actually getting out there and doing the practice. And originally, I was caught in that first loop, reading about it, trying to watch other people, thinking I could go to events, sit back and absorb it, pick up the skills without going to the front of the room. But that's what we need to do. So it's taking action, finding somewhere where you can practice, practicing even in meetings, practicing somewhere you feel safe, could be with your colleagues, but seeing those opportunities to do it. What we often do when we're nervous, we don't see the opportunity because we don't want to do it. But then as my confidence grew, you start seeing these opportunities to practice. And as you practice, like anything, you become more and more confident after you get success after success after success. And that's where that confidence starts to come, Kit.
Now, Andy, I want to play devil's advocate really quickly, okay? So let's say I am in a position in the organization. Mm-hmm. I have regular meetings on a daily, weekly basis, and maybe I have to do a presentation once every week or every 2 weeks.
Mhm.
I have the repetitions, I have opportunities. Now you're telling me to practice, practice, practice. I have the opportunities now. What can I go practice? Or why am I not getting better as a speaker if I'm always speaking in meetings or I have a weekly presentation? Like, okay, I have the opportunities. Now what?
Well, first of all, you've got to be looking at how you're doing it. For example, you could be giving a regular team update, a regular presentation. But first of all, what are you doing, for example, on your mindset that I covered earlier? If you're still going in with the mindset, I'm doing it, but I'm really petrified, I don't want to do it, then that's just going to keep building up for you. So you want to be able to, first of all, get the mindset right so that you feel relaxed, you feel more confident going in. You want to make sure that you're preparing your presentation in advance. If you prepare the presentation in advance, you get to know it. We like to internalize it. What people often do is they will get a presentation and they will try and learn a script, word for word for word. And if you learn it like that, then you've got the pressure of trying to remember every word, literally which comes after the other, which builds the anxiety, which builds that pressure on you. And you won't get better if you keep on doing that. How you want to be able to do it is to internalize it. Then if somebody asks you a question in the middle of your presentation, that's okay. You can deal with it. If there's an interruption, that's okay. So you want to get it to the point, like how the stories we tell people, we may not use the same words, but the elements of the same story are there. That's how we want to get it. And that's where we start seeing our progress. Because the magical bit, I always think, is when you feel comfortable with what you're talking about, you then can start enjoying it. And when you're enjoying what you're talking about, so are your audience. They get to enjoy it and they receive more from it that you are sharing. Because let's be honest, nobody wants to sit in a room or even on Zoom looking at a speaker who looks stressed, who's sweating, who looks uncomfortable and wants to get out of there. Right? We want to see people who are relaxed and enjoying themselves, and then we feel relaxed. It's kind of like mirrors. So then we start feeling relaxed. And quite frankly, we can all be selfish at times. We want to feel relaxed. We want to enjoy it. So by going back slightly before your presentation, it's practicing the right things. So getting the right mindset, taking time to prepare it, taking time to rehearse it. Because again, when we rehearse, we can find, and I've done this, right? It could be a simple word, but for some reason, I just trip up it when I'm talking. So therefore, by practicing it in advance, we can find those words, those phrases, and then we can get rid of them. So it just flows like us, which is what we want. We got to remember that's the other thing. When we're talking, it's got to be us talking. It can't be like, you don't sound like Wikipedia or an encyclopedia using all these extra long and big words to sound impressive. Just use the words that you would normally use in your everyday language. Technical words, if you're talking to technical people, that you would normally use, but otherwise, everyday words. And then you say it's you that's coming over, and then you start you'll see yourself getting better. You'll see that confidence level increasing time and time again.
That's great, Andy. I want to bring up a question from Rosemary. Hey, Rosemary, hope you're doing well. How do you get over corporate culture that discourages people from speaking up in meetings? Some companies frown on unsolicited comments aired publicly. What are your thoughts about this?
I think in meetings, all the corporate, I spent most of my life in the corporate world. Generally, you could speak in meetings. They didn't try to suppress it, but maybe in Rosemary's culture, a company, they don't want you to speak up. But I would say if you have something valid, then try to say it, try to share it, because it's by speaking up in meetings that you get noticed. Now, we all want women meetings, especially if they're with clients, you have to tread a bit more carefully. I have heard of it where people were out of a meeting with clients and they speak over the senior partner, for example. Now, you wouldn't want to be doing that. You have to know the kind of like the hierarchy within the meeting. So if you're at junior level, you're not speaking over and certainly not contradicting somebody who's senior within the level. But if it's, say, a team of your colleagues, your peers, then that's the time to say something, to contribute and try to get your voice heard, because that is what's so important within it. So colleagues, peers, definitely get your voice heard. When you're with clients, senior management, be aware of that hierarchy within it.
What about let's say in these environments where maybe we have a bunch of people on the team and it seems so hard to get our voice in, but when we do speak up for that minute or 3 minutes, it feels like we have to maybe get to the point, say the best things from our mind, because if we don't speak up, we might lose our chance. What are your suggestions to sound clear, coherent, and engaging when we have a minute to speak up and we want to get our voice in? What are some of your suggestions to really nail it?
So first of all, when you're going to speak, try and remember what you're saying, in the sense of don't try and learn like create a script. What I would sometimes do is I'll be thinking, okay, I'm going to speak in there, and you try and create a mental script. Most of the time, we don't need to have that script. You just want to give your clear answer. A great formula I like is PREP, which is point, P. What is the point you want to make? Oh, there's the reasons. So you can give some reasons. A reason why. Normally one reason is enough for most answers. Easy evidence, give some evidence or maybe examples of why, and then recap the point again. By recapping the point, everybody has a clear understanding of what it is you've shared and why. So that's point, reason, examples, and point is all you need to do. And if you just follow that, it's a really powerful way of giving your answers. Even if somebody just asks you a question off the cuff, you've got that in your mind as a way of structuring. And that actually keeps the answers nice and concise. And they don't become one of those waffly ones we've all heard people giving, where you sometimes wonder, what are they saying? Or why are they talking for like minute after minute after minute? And then we all end up, of course, tuning out. So that is, I think, it's a great way to keep ourselves focused.
Yeah, I highly agree with you. Prep is a good one because it helps you really just think off the cuff. Even though it's not off the cuff, you have a formula to go back on. Now, Andy, what do you think, after working with so many professionals, what do you think are some of the biggest mistakes that people make when it comes to becoming better as a speaker, or maybe during their PowerPoints or presentations?
Well, there are several mistakes that people always make. First of all, they leave it to the last minute. Now, we can leave it to the last minute because we feel anxious, we feel nervous. And again, every mistake, I've done it. So you feel anxious about the presentation. So the way not to feel anxious is don't think about it. And then you just leave it to the last minute. So my first tip would be, if you've got a presentation coming up or a speech, always start the prep as early as you can. You really can, right? You can get it ready and you can always leave it, but get it ready. The second thing is, the PowerPoint slides don't come first. The mistake could often be people open up their laptop, create their slides, and then put the content around the slides. Whereas the slides are there to support you. You, in fact, are the presentation, not the slides. So create them afterwards if they are needed. And the slides themselves should have 1, 2, 3 words, but ideally pictures. Again, the slides should not be a script for you, and they certainly shouldn't be loads of text, because if people are reading the slides, they're not listening to you. So that's another mistake people make. They fill them up.
Playing devil's advocate. What if I have to present to a team of executives? So you're telling me, so should I have a slide with all the text? I mean, if I'm going to go through like 2 or 3 slides with all the executives, it's not a big PowerPoint with just 10 or 20. What are your suggestions then if I have 5 minutes to present to executives and I have to fit everything in one slide, or 1 or 2 or few slides?
But there can be key points, highlighted words that you talk about. It hasn't got to be a paragraph of text. Because man, you can say it. The worst thing, I mean, how many times have you done this or seen this, where you sit there, a slide comes up, a paragraph of text, and then the speaker reads it. And I think, why are you reading it to me? I can read, and generally, I can read quicker than you can to tell it to me. So there's no point. If you're going to put that up, you might as well just email it to them. So I would say key points of a couple of words is all you need of what it is you're going to cover, not a whole paragraph of text. It's crazy. And if they're reading that, as I said earlier, if they're reading that, now they're not listening to me. They focused on that whole paragraph.
Yeah, that's true. When they have that paragraph and they try to hear you speak, it's hard to focus on both. I want to bring up a comment from Valerie. I often circle round and around practicing my presentation. I feel paralyzed. I think I'm anxious. how do you get over that anxiety, you know?
Well, I get you feel anxious, but if you, and again, I always used to, always felt anxious when I was doing this. But here's the thing, if you start it early, you know you've got so long to prepare. Now, I know sometimes we can't always prepare early because somebody throws a presentation on us, but do start as early as you can. Then you can feel more relaxed as you practice it. Work your way through, finding the areas that trip you up, the areas you're finding difficult to understand. And then you'll feel more relaxed as you become more confident with it. Sometimes, a great advice to find is that what we can do is we start going through our presentation rehearsals. We make a mistake, we start that bit again. But as it gets towards the later stages of your rehearsals, if you make a mistake, carry on. Don't restart. If you're using slides and you click the wrong slide, don't stop, carry on. If you stumble over a word, carry on. By carrying on, you're building your confidence to know that actually, if something happens during the meeting, I can carry on. You're used to doing so. And that's building your confidence. So if you say the wrong word or you miss something out, see how maybe you can bring it in later if you need to. And again, it's small things that build the confidence. And I think there's a key point to remember when we're speaking as well. No one, and I mean no one, knows what we're going to say. No one, right? So if we don't say it, it generally doesn't matter. We can build pressure on ourselves. We forgot to say something. But unless it's a financial statistic that is crucial to the meeting, most of the time it doesn't matter. They're just odd sentences and words. So carry on the rehearsals is where you'll get that confidence. If you make a mistake during your later rehearsals, just carry on and you'll see how you can recover and how it just flows.
That's a great point for people to keep in the back of their mind, you know, Andy, like you were saying, if you mess up, people don't know that you're messing up. And
Right.
you just keep on going on. I'm going to bring up a question from Rose, and then this might be our last question. How do you manage your energy while making presentations over a group of Zoom audiences? I found some differences speaking one-on-one, looking at the full screen, speaking and to people clearly and confidently. What are your suggestions?
So to keep the energy levels up, there's certain things you can do. First of all, sometimes I do a lot of webinars as well. What I would generally do when I'm doing those, because I want to be really high energy, I stand up. And I find if you're standing up, there will be more energy in it. That's the first thing. Secondly, remember when you're doing Zoom meetings, you want to look at the webcam, not down at the people. Because if you're doing that, you're looking away from them. And that naturally breaks the energy for them because you're now not looking at them anymore. It loses that engagement. Some people I know like to have pictures of maybe a smiley face over the webcam. I know somebody who does that because they feel by looking at that, it gives them the energy as well. You can also have that word written up on a post-it, on your webcam or on Word even. Because remember, people can't see your desktop unless you're sharing it. Energy or smile. And you can have those key words to help you to keep it up, to remind yourself to smile, to remind yourself to keep your energy levels high during that presentation. But it's being aware of it, which clearly I think as Rose is, and therefore by having that awareness, straight away you're ahead of other people. You now know that you've got to do that. So just a keyword if you need it. But remember there are people there, but keep that engagement by looking at the webcam as well. And a picture, it can even be a picture behind it on the wall if you like of some people or a loved one or a pet that you can speak to, and you can then start projecting your voice across the room to them.
Now, Andy, if people are loving this conversation and they want to follow you and find out more about your projects, where's the best place to go? And tell us if you're working on any special projects now.
Well, the main projects I do, if people are interested, I then go to my website, which is the academyofpublicspeakers.com, the academyofpublicspeakers.com. And there you can find lots of details about the work. To help people do this as well, I run twice weekly groups where people, professionals get together, practice speaking off the cuff, they practice giving presentations, and that's exactly for these reasons, Kit, you know, because it's getting that practice in before we need it, before that interview or that big presentations. And they can go to that website, they see the details there, and they're welcome to message me.
Andy, I have to tell you, I am jealous. That is such a good name, Academy of Public Speakers. Man, that's a good one. So everyone, if you want to be a confident speaker, maybe you're dealing with anxiety, or you just want to become the best speaker that you can be, definitely go to academyofpublicspeakers.com. Follow Andy. He is an amazing individual, teacher, and coach, of course, from all the value that he's been giving over the past 30-40 minutes. Andy, before we end it for the day, I want to ask you, what is your 1-minute message of how to become a better speaker, be more confident for career and business success? What is your 1-minute message you want to leave the audience with today?
Always start with the end in mind. When you're going to create any presentation, what is that one thing you want the people in that room who are going to listen to you to know, to do, to think, to understand, to believe? What is it? There has to be one thing. And then when you have that one thing, create your presentation around it. Everything that you then create should only be there to achieve that objective, that end result. Everything else, any other story, any other fact, picture, take it out. If it doesn't contribute to your audience's understanding, it shouldn't be there. And by doing that, you'll create a presentation that really helps people and really gets your message across. So know your end result before you write a single word.
And speaking about the one thing and knowing your end results, if you're watching this live or still watching the video and watching the replay, maybe you want to become a better leader. Maybe you want to become a more successful entrepreneur. But I know that your speaking skills are important to you. And since Andy was talking about that one thing, can you make working on your public speaking that one thing for you in 2021 or whatever year that you're watching this with? Again, go to academyofpublicspeakers.com. I want to say once again, Andy, thank you for joining us today and giving us your wisdom and experiences. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's been an amazing pleasure. Really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me on the show.
Well, everyone, thank you for watching once again, and give Andy a follow. Thank you for investing in yourself and spending your time to work on your speaking skills today. Thank you, everyone. Take care now.
Bye-bye.